In 1954, 5 teenagers from the Herman Gardens Housing Project in Detroit, Michigan started singing together because they had nothing else to do and everything to prove. They were not performing on a stage. They were not in a recording studio. They were just boys in a neighborhood that did not have much to offer them, standing on street corners and in school hallways, letting their voices find each other in the way that only happens when something is meant to be. Henry Fambrough said it the best 70 years later when someone asked him how the group came together. He paused, thought about it, and then said simply, "Our voices chose for us. When we sang together, we just knew it was right." Those 5 boys, Henry Fambrough, Billy Henderson, Purvis Jackson, Bobby Smith, and C.P. Spencer, called themselves the Domingos first, inspired by doo-wop groups like the Flamingos and Billy Ward and his Dominoes. They were teenagers in a segregated American city at a time when the music coming out of Detroit was beginning to change the world. They did not know yet that they would spend the next several decades chasing a recognition that seemed perpetually just out of reach, that they would be overlooked and undervalued and almost forgotten, and that the very last of them would stand alone at a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame podium in 2023, 70 years after it all began, looking skyward and saying quietly to the men who were no longer there, "Look guys, we finally made it." This is the story of the Spinners, where they came from, who they were, and what became of every one of them. They won an amateur contest at a local Detroit radio station in 1961, and the prize was something that changed the direction of their lives, a chance to attend music classes. They renamed themselves the Spinners that same year and released their first single, "That's What Girls Are Made For," on producer Harvey Fuqua's Tri-Fi Records label. It peaked at number 27 on the pop charts in August 1961. For a group of young men from a housing project who had been singing on street corners, it felt like the beginning of everything. In 1963, when Motown Records absorbed Tri-Fi, the Spinners went with it. They walked through the doors of Hitsville, USA and Detroit and found themselves inside the greatest hit-making machine in the history of Black popular music. The Temptations were there, Marvin Gaye was there, Diana Ross and the Supremes were there, Stevie Wonder was there, and the Spinners were there too, except nobody at Motown seemed to know what to do with them. For nearly an entire decade, they labored in the shadows of their more celebrated label mates. Berry Gordy and his team assigned the group's best songs to other acts. The Spinners were given second-tier material and second-tier attention. When they were not recording, Motown put them to work as road managers, chaperones, and even shipping clerks for other artists. Men who could sing like angels were being asked to pack boxes. The indignity of it was something they lived with for years without complaining publicly, because complaining was not an option when Motown held your contract. But the friendships at Hitsville were real, and one of those friendships saved them. Stevie Wonder wrote them a song. In 1970, a composition he crafted called "It's a Shame" gave the Spinners their first real breakthrough, reaching number 14 on the Billboard Hot 100. It was a moment the group had been working toward for over a decade, but by the time the song reached its peak, their Motown contract was expiring, and the label that had never fully believed in them was letting them go. Aretha Franklin stepped in. She had known these men since their early days in Detroit, and she told them exactly where to go: Atlantic Records in New York. She made the introduction herself. At Atlantic, the group was paired with producer and songwriter Tom Bell, one of the architects of the Philadelphia soul sound, and what followed was one of the most remarkable commercial transformations in the history of American music. "I'll Be Around" became their first million-selling single in 1972. The song had actually been the B-side of their first Atlantic release, until radio DJs flipped the record over and played it obsessively. "Could It Be I'm Falling in Love" came next, another million seller. Then One of a Kind Love Affair, Ghetto Child, Mighty Love, Games People Play. Then came You with Dionne Warwick, the Rubber Band Man. The group that Motown had treated like shipping clerks was now one of the most successful R&B acts in the world. They became the first Black vocal group to headline arenas across America. They earned 18 gold and platinum albums. They collected 6 Grammy nominations. They sold millions of records on every continent. And through all of it, one by one, they began to say goodbye.
Philippe Wynne was not an original member, but he was the flamboyant face that most of the world associated with the Spinners during their greatest years. Born in Cincinnati, Ohio, raised in an orphanage after his parents' divorce and the abandonment of his mother, Wynne had carried hardship from childhood. He came to Detroit in the early 1960s, sang gospel and R&B, performed with James Brown's backing band, the JBs, spent time in Germany singing with a band from Liberia, and finally joined the Spinners in 1972, replacing his own cousin G.C. Cameron as lead vocalist. His voice was something extraordinary, agile, elastic, capable of flipping from tender whisper to ecstatic falsetto in a single breath. But by 1977, he wanted more. He wanted the group renamed Philippe Wynne and the Spinners. When that was denied, he left to pursue a solo career. The solo work went nowhere. He found some success touring with George Clinton's Parliament Funkadelic, contributing to their landmark track Not Just Knee Deep. But the solo albums did not sell, and the spotlight he had chased by leaving the group never arrived. On the night of July 13, 1984, Philippe Wynne collapsed on stage at a nightclub in Oakland, California, while performing. He died the following day of a heart attack. He was 43 years old. His personal life had been marked by unimaginable tragedy. His son Alvarez was killed in a drive-by shooting in Compton in 1999. His other son, Emmanuel, drowned in Daytona Beach, Florida in 2001 while trying to save another man from the water. Emmanuel was posthumously awarded the Carnegie Medal for his heroism. Philippe Wynne had survived an orphanage, poverty, and the music industry, and he lost both of his sons anyway. He was posthumously inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2023. The original members left even more quietly. Billy Henderson, the tenor whose harmonies had been part of the Spinners' sound since those first street corner days in Detroit, was removed from the group in 2004 following a legal dispute over money. After decades of contribution, he was gone, with the kind of ending that carries a particular bitterness, not a death, but a dismissal. Billy Henderson passed away in 2007. Purvis Jackson was the bass voice, the low, rumbling foundation beneath everything the Spinners ever recorded. He had been there since 1954, since the housing project in Herman Gardens, since the amateur contest at the radio station and the first trip to Harvey Fuqua's recording studio. He continued performing with the group even as his health declined. He died on August 18, 2008, from brain and liver cancer. He was 70 years old. His personal life had been marked by unimaginable tragedy. His son Alvarez was killed in a drive-by shooting in Compton in 1999. And then there was Henry Fambrough, the baritone, the quiet one, the man with the handlebar mustache and the voice like smooth butter over gravel, the one who had started it all in 1954 and refused for 70 years to let it end. Henry had served 2 years in the United States Army after the group's early days, then returned to music and never left again. While others sought the spotlight, Henry provided the depth and the warmth beneath the more celebrated voices, delivering slow-burning ballads like Ghetto Child and I Don't Want to Lose You, with a quiet devastation that stayed in the bones long after the song ended. He watched his bandmates leave, retire, and die. He watched the lineup change around him again and again. He kept going. When he stood on the stage at the Barclays Center in New York City on November 3, 2023, to accept the Spinners' induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, he was 85 years old, and the only original member still alive to be there. He looked up before he spoke, and then he said what he had promised himself he would say when this moment finally came. "Look, guys," he said, "we finally made it." He retired from performing in April 2023, just months before the induction. He spent his final months at his home in Virginia, surrounded by his wife Norma of 52 years, his daughter Heather, and the knowledge that the group he had built and protected and carried for nearly 7 decades had finally received the honor it had always deserved. Henry Fambrough passed away peacefully on February 7, 2024, at the age of 85, after a month in hospice care. The last original spinner was gone.
The story of the Spinners is more than a journey through music. It's a testament to passion, resilience, and timeless talent. Rising from the streets of Detroit, they faced years of struggle before finally breaking through, proving that persistence can shape destiny. Their smooth harmonies and heartfelt lyrics became a defining sound of soul and R&B, connecting deeply with listeners across generations. With every performance, they carried a sincerity that set them apart, turning songs into lasting memories. From humble beginnings to global recognition, their influence spread far beyond charts and awards. Even today, their music continues to resonate, reminding us that true artistry never fades, and that voices filled with soul can echo far beyond their time, inspiring artists who follow. And maybe that's what makes their story so powerful. It never really ends. It simply finds new listeners, new moments, and new meaning with every song played, quietly weaving itself into people's lives across generations. Their music doesn't belong to just one era. It continues to live on, connecting the past with the present in a way few artists ever achieve. Each note carries emotion, memory, and soul that still feels real today. If this story meant something to you, take a second to like the video, share it with someone who truly loves classic soul, and don't forget to subscribe for more unforgettable stories behind the legends you thought you already knew.